Like, we are of the earth. There's such a disconnect from that knowing in our society. We don't feel that in our bones. We don't feel that connection to the land that we live on, to the river that's running down the street, to the trees that are growing around us. We don't feel in our body that they are kin. We are all made of the same material. We all came from the same place. The same vital force is running through all of us.
Hi, Zoe. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
Something I really appreciate about your work is how deeply it's rooted in relationship. So, relationship to the earth, plants, ceremony. And in the modern wellness space, what's often missing is that reconnection with the natural world. One thing that really caught my attention is that you're a folk herbalist. For people new to this term, as I was, what is folk herbalism in your perspective?
Folk herbalism is one of those kind of nebulous terms that can have a lot of meanings to a lot of different people. But folk herbalism is kind of like your grandmother's herbalism, your auntie's herbalism, the chicken soup that your mom made you that somehow miraculously made you better when you were young, or the tea that your grandma gave you that always hit the spot perfectly. So folk herbalism like draws on a lot of indigenous cultures from across the globe. The specific type of herbalism I'm trained in is the wise woman tradition of healing. So that is really like pulling on the wisdom of women in a lot of different indigenous cultures. This method of healing, this tradition of healing is centered around the body's innate wisdom to be able to heal itself. It doesn't look to any healer as like the one with the information or the one that's going to fix you, but it really looks to the body as like the source of its own healing and its own knowing of how to heal itself. So through this path of learning folk herbalism, I've learned how to read symptoms in the body as signs of imbalance that can be guided toward balance with different herbs or lifestyle changes or anything like that. And not looking at symptoms as problems that need to be fixed or solved or just extinguished out of existence. And another big part of this tradition of healing is that a big part of this type of herbalism is learning directly from the plant itself. And this is where a lot of indigenous cultures kind of feed into my training, where a lot of communities around the globe, when asked, like, how did you know that this plant works for this ailment? They'll say, we learned directly from the plant. So through this tradition of healing, a big part of it is sitting in meditation with the plant to receive any information from the spirit, any communication, any healing from the spirit, and learning with a open heart and a quiet mind, like not trying to analyze and criticize what's coming through, but letting like the heart receive and learning to trust that information, learning to trust the heart and like it knows what it's doing. It not gaslighting ourselves that like this isn't real, but really learning to trust yourself in in receiving and interpreting the language of the plants.
I love that so much. There's so much in there that we
There's so
can
much.
like go off of. This is what people used to this is how people lived. People
Yeah.
just naturally had this relationship with the land and would see everything as conscious and just have a relationship with it and receive its wisdom.
Yes.
And we've obviously been very disconnected from that. And that could be a whole nother conversation. But I'm so curious how you see or what your experience with the plants have been like. So
Ugh.
when you're listening, maybe even like the first time you were able
Yeah.
to connect with,
Yeah.
yeah, just really, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. I have a few different threads I want to pull on. But the first one I'll talk about is the first ceremony I sat in during this apprenticeship of learning this method of healing with the School of the Sacred Wild. We sat in ceremony for 3 hours and drank 3 different herbs and were guided into kind of this shamanic method of communication with these plant spirits. And
And these herbs, just for context, they're not psychoactive. It's
they're
not
not psychoactive.
right.
They
Yeah.
are like,
Like reishi, or am I
yeah, yeah, or the first herbs that I drank were burdock, nettle, and linden, which are all like
mm,
really gentle, nourishing herbs that could be like the base of any tea that you get at a grocery store. Yeah, not psychoactive. Thank you for clarifying that. And in these kind of shamanic journeys, I had really visual experiences in which like I visually saw the spirits of these plants come to me and give me different messages about healing in my body. But what struck me the most was that after we had these experiences, we broke out into these share groups and we all shared how the meditations went for us. And so many people had the same vision, had the same experience. And so, like, that was a common thread throughout this training where we would go through these meditations and then come out and say, this is what I saw and this was what I received. And like half of the students or more received the same thing. That's really like when I started to, I'm a scientific person. I am an analytical person. And so at first it was hard for me to turn off that like critical part of my brain. Like, is this real? Am I making this up? And then once I started to notice this pattern of people having the same experience, I was like, oh no, this is straight magic and this is real. Um, that was that is when I started to really like feel bought in on the power of this method of herbalism. And then another experience that I've had that I want to share. I was receiving like energy work and the practitioner told me, "Hey, like I see you working with this plant. I don't know if it means anything to you, but I see you working with rosemary." It's like, okay, I've like never really worked with it before, but like interesting. I'll just kind of keep that in my back pocket. And then the next day, I was working at a farm, and the farmer said, "Hey, Zoe, I have like a bunch of rosemary. If you want some to take home, like please do." And I said, "Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll just like take some home and, I'll just have it on hand." And then I was doing my own kind of ancestral work, trying to work through some of my ancestral trauma on my Ashkenazi Jewish line, and I was doing some research into like how to start this behemoth of a task of like working with Jewish trauma and listening to these different rabbis and listening to these different Jewish shamanic healers talking about how they use rosemary to connect with their ancestors. They burn it, they drink it in a tea, and they use that as a way to kind of call in this healing and call in the ancestors and begin that work. And so, like, I'm getting chills just talking about it. Like,
mhm.
there is this way that the plants reach out for us in a way that is nonlinear and can't be rationalized, but it happens. It happens so often where like a plant may be growing
Mhm.
around your doorstep and you don't really know what it is, and then once you look at it, it's exactly the plant that you need for your anxiety or for your stomach issues or whatever. Like they come to us and it's again magic.
Yeah, I have full body goosebumps right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what is what is it about rosemary for Jewish ancestral healing?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know?
It has a few different properties. So if you burn it like you would white sage, it has this way of kind of cleansing and transmuting stagnant dark energy into something a little bit lighter. So that's really nice to kind of move through some of the heaviness. But also, I personally have found that it's really good for memory. So, like in an allopathic Western medicine approach, when you're looking at rosemary, it's really good for cognitive functioning and it's really good for memory. But on the flip side of that coin is that like I I've found it's really incredible for meditation and it like clears the mind and allows me to kind of drop in. And so I've had these super powerful experiences of when I take a tincture of rosemary or drink it in a tea, I can connect really deeply with either my highest self or my guides or my ancestors, whoever I'm calling in. It just kind of like clears the way the everyday noise of, you know, our brains. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how did you get to this point where you're able to drop in and receive? Because I imagine, and this is an assumption, but I imagine it wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't. And it's, as with everything, it ebbs and flows. And I think that's important to know in that not every day I'm like the most connected at all times, right? And so I think it's a muscle that you learn to flex. And so through this training with the School of the Sacred Wild, I was doing these meditations on a weekly basis for 2 years. And so it just started to become, the first meditation I dropped into, it felt really powerful. And then some of them maybe felt a little bit diluted and I wasn't really receiving a lot. And then some of them felt really powerful. But I think the key there was consistency, like continuing to show up and continuing to be willing to kind of sit in silence and ask, with reverence and humility to learn from these plant teachers. And I think the commitment and dedication of showing up allows the plants to, in turn, open up to you. And, like I said, sometimes it's not clear and it's like you sit down for meditation and your mind's just wandering for 20 minutes. And sometimes I've had experiences where it's like, okay, I didn't maybe receive too much. And other times I get full downloads and I'm journaling for, an hour afterwards. So I think part of this process, as with any like spiritual journey, in my opinion, it's like having the grace to meet yourself where you're at and not expecting one day to look the same as the other. And I've learned to have a lot of like forgiveness and grace for myself if I don't practice or I show up and it doesn't go the way that I want it to. Like, just keep showing up, just keep doing the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And also as a woman, there's this
Yeah.
cyclical intelligence, right? That
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
that we have. And so it does feel like there are times, there are moments where that's easier. That kind of
Yeah.
state is easier to get into than others.
Totally.
And I think that that's just part of it.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking to that. I think that is such a big part of it that we don't like. Let's normalize talking about how throughout the month we're different people. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when we go through a winter every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is crazy in
Yeah.
28 days how much we're moving through and
Oh my gosh.
what
Yeah.
we're shedding.
Yeah. And then like for me, it's like, okay, damage control after what like who I was in Luteal. It's like, all right, I got like a week to like, rebuild those bridges. Yeah.
Luteal
Yeah.
is tough. Do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have any suggestions or like have you found anything that supports you during that time?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Luteal or people's hormones and menstrual cycles are so different. So I just want to like give this caveat that herbalism is so different depending on your body. But
Mm.
for me, like I have a lot of fire element in me, so I have a lot of heat. It manifests in my period in that like I get a lot of cramps. I have a very sharp mind, so I get kind of really irritable and I get really hot. I get like red and rashy in the face. So like the herbs that work for me kind of cool my temperament down and also like cool my mind down. So I really like working with milky oats, which is the like seed head of the oat plant. Before it goes to seed, it creates kind of this little pod and it has this like milky like latex material in it, and that like comes once a year, just a few, maybe a week out of the year, right before it turns to seed. And that material, that like liquid material, is super calming to the nervous system. And so that milky oats is one of my favorite herbs to work with. And I also really like skullcap, which is it can be on the stronger side depending on your tolerance to herbs. But for me, it just cuts the noise. And like when my anxiety is running or if I'm being super critical, right? Like part of my luteal phase is just being an asshole to myself. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
so the skull cap just kind of calms that down. And then with a little bit of a quieter mind, I'm able to sink into my body and be like, oh, okay, like what does my body need right now? It would feel really good if I took a bath. And like I'm not so cranky anymore because I'm like listening to my body. Um, and so much of this process for me has been learning how to support my mind in quieting so that the language of my body is loud enough for me to hear it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our body's always speaking to us. It's
Yeah.
just a lot of the times it can be softer than our mind. Our mind can
Yeah.
kind of override the
Yeah.
signals of our body.
Yeah. Yeah. The body feels more gentler, like more feminine,
Mhm.
and the mind can be so aggro,
Yeah.
masculine energy. Yeah.
And to loop back into the conversation of earth-centered practices, so why is that so important, and how can that support people if they're like, "Yeah, I feel like my mind is so loud and I'm not listening to my body in the way that I'd like."
Mm. This is such a big question. Our innate nature, like we are of the earth. We are the earth, right? There's such a disconnect from that knowing in our society. We're like, we don't feel that in our bones. Like we don't feel that connection to the land that we live on, to the river that's running down the street, like to the trees that are growing around us. Like we don't feel in our body that they are kin, but like we are all made of the same material. Like we all came from the same place, the same like vital force is running through all of us. And so part of the work that I do and part of what I love so much about this path is like this remembering of like we can learn directly from the plants, from the trees, from the river. Like we can go to them with our hearts open or broken and ask to be held. And we can be barefoot on the earth and like feel the true connection between the soles of our feet and the soil of the earth and like what it does to our heart to open it. I just like I've had the most profound experiences just like laying in the grass. Like this is what years of therapy feels like after 20 minutes in a grassy field. Like it's the connection, like once you allow yourself to tap into it and again, like suspend the disbelief of the analytical mind, you can receive so much from the earth. I have this experience that's kind of coming up in my mind that I'd like to share if that's okay.
Of course.
I was struggling with some grief with some of the global violence and um, just upheaval in the world that we've experienced over the last several years. And I was just struggling with a lot of grief and I didn't really know how to hold it. And I went to a river that was running nearby and like I was really raw and open and just like crying and asking for help and asking for anything that could just like take away some of this pain that I'm feeling. And as I was like on my knees on the riverbank, I closed my eyes and I had this visual of like the spirit of the river come out and just embrace me in this hug. And I felt like this maternal energy of like, it's all going to be okay. The world is so much bigger than what's happening right now. And I don't have to go through this alone. And just these moments of feeling like we're not alone and that we can find kinship in the earth is like how profound and deeply healing it like in and of itself, and let alone like once we start feeling that connection with the earth, then I would hope there's a more of a connection of like let's do our best not to destroy it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes one experience like that for somebody to realize the earth is actually a conscious being.
Yeah, and she's listening.
Exactly. And she can
Yeah.
hold me. in my
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And that soothing is so supportive for our nervous system,
Mm.
especially because we're just surrounded by so much noise and violence. And if we
Yeah.
don't think we're impacted by that,
Oh my
think
gosh.
again.
Yeah.
Even if you're not
Yeah.
consciously aware, you are.
Oh yeah. Even just like leave your phone at home and go on a walk for 20 minutes and see how much of a different person you become. It's like our nervous system is constantly hijacked and like the frequency of the earth is it's so grounding that like when we're scrolling or looking at the news, we're just like in this kind of like peaked high frequency or like, kind of anxious frequency. And then once we drop down, it's like, all right, we can settle, we can ground. And the earth is such an ally in us finding that rhythm within ourselves again.
What do you think about for people who may feel like they don't have enough nature? Maybe they live in the city or they live in an
Yeah.
apartment. It's from my experience, you can connect without actually being outside. If you can, that's great.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's like a lot of different ways around that. I think working with plants like a tea is a really great way to connect with the plants and connect with the earth. So like you're calling in the spirit of the earth with the herb that's in your mug, or even if you have like a house plant, like connecting, just tuning all of your senses, to, like become hyper aware of the way that this plant is growing and the flowers or the leaves, or just like looking at the magical way that nature creates itself, even if it's in your houseplant or sipping the tea in your home, or if you can go and find a tree in Central Park or whatever it is, like even just like going outside and feeling the sun on your face. It's it's reminding us that we're part of something bigger. Like it doesn't have to be this grandiose, like we're at a retreat in the middle of the woods. Like it can be these little moments of connection. Um, Another practice I like to do is imagining when I'm sitting in my house inside, like imagining growing roots into the soil and connecting with the earth. And so that is another way that I find that connection while I'm inside. I live in Vermont. It's been like 5 degrees. I'm not going outside. So like that is how I've been connecting in the deep winter of, yeah, sending my roots into the soil and finding the earth's energy through that connection.
What are your thoughts on the earth mats? I don't know if that's actually the term for it, but you plug it into the bottom outlet and it's
I've
a
never
grounding.
heard.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's these mats that it connects, I guess it connects to the grounding cord I don't know how it does it, but basically it brings the earth into your home through the mat. And
Wow.
cuz I had it I don't think I have it here. I think I left it in storage in North, but anyways. So I did it the first time for an hour and I got like lightheaded because apparently you have to like work your way up. I find that it really works. It's like really
Whoa.
soothes me.
Wow. I wonder if there's just like a certain frequency emitted.
You have to plug something into the wall and some come with it and it tells you if the grounding outlet is safe. Like if
Oh,
there's
interesting.
yeah, because I guess it could be not safe.
So it's the outlet that is like itself is grounded, and then it connects into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
because you
interesting.
know how an outlet, it's like I'm trying to say, I don't know the technical terms, but it's like the two things on the top and then the one thing on the bottom.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's the bottom thing that you're plugging it into.
Well,
And
okay.
apparently that's like the grounding cord or something. It brings up the
Wow.
grounding electrical frequency. I don't know how it works, but yeah.
Wow, I'm fascinated by that. I need to do my research.
Yeah, I was curious. I mean, it's a good alternative for people who wanna, like,
Absolutely.
go outside and put their feet in the soil every day, but maybe they live in a city.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that, all for like whatever folks need to do to make that connection more accessible.
Mhm.
whatever it is, like take what you need, but we all need it in some way or another. I love that.
Do
Big
you
fan.
grow your own herbs or do you how does that work for you?
Yeah, both. So I just moved to Vermont a few months ago, but I was living in Colorado before that, and for the
Oh my
last several
gosh, I'm thinking of
years.
moving there.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you
I'm
know where?
feeling yeah. Well, I was thinking Colorado Springs, but then I keep seeing online that Colorado Springs is really conservative and, like, military, and
Yes.
so that's kinda dissuading me, but looks so beautiful. So I'm thinking
hmm
maybe Denver
hmm
or somewhere near Denver, close enough where I can go on all the hikes in Colorado Springs, but yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
did you
Yeah.
live?
It's beautiful. I was in Fort Collins,
Oh,
and so
okay.
just an hour north of Denver.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's an awesome place to live. I was there for almost 8 years. I really loved it. And there, for the last several years, I had grown my own herbs for the most part. Of course, not everything is going to be able to grow. Like Colorado's climate is pretty harsh and dry, so I was able to grow some things, and some things I bought, but I was fortunate enough to work at an apothecary in Fort Collins, and so I knew where they sourced all of their herbs, and they're all organic, all organic sources, and so I felt really comfortable getting my herbs from them. So kind of a mix of both.
Mm.
Right now, I still have a lot of herbs that I grew last summer, that are dried, and I'm still working on those. So I have some of those that I like started from seed and then took all the way through harvesting, which is really special and sweet, my little babies. And then some of the other herbs that I've bought, but it's not always accessible to folks to be able to grow their own stuff. There's like a certain level of connection that you cultivate when you grow the plant and you tend to it every day. You're like building this relationship with the plant, and then once you drink that tea, it's like, well, hello, dear friend, I've been with you for the last several months. Like it feels like you guys already know each other.
Mhm.
But I do think if that's not accessible, like just knowing that you're getting herbs that aren't sprayed with pesticides, getting organic herbs is like the very next best option.
Yeah, is there anything else that we should be looking for? So organic herbs, maybe like, I don't know, family or like locally
Yeah,
grown?
yeah, the more local, the better,
Yeah.
for sure. I think, yeah, support local farms always, always, always. And thank you for saying that. And then a big one for one plant in particular, white sage is like a common herb used in the spiritual community for like sacred smoke and smudging, and it's really over harvested.
Yeah.
And so there are some herbs, including white sage, that have like sustainability issues with buying them. And so there are kind of like ethical choices that you can make as a consumer, deciding whether or not you want to buy them, whether you want to try to grow it on your own, or with white sage, like I know that there are some companies that are owned by indigenous people in California that grow white sage and then sell it. So, I think it's just important when you're buying herbs to like just do a little bit of research about the environmental impact of what harvesting that specific herb looks like, and if there's a way you can lessen your footprint on the earth, like
Mhm.
I think go for it. And support local
Yeah.
farms, support indigenous communities. Just don't like support Amazon or whatever the fuck big
Yeah.
companies are selling
I can't
selling herbs.
remember I can't remember the name of the reservation where I buy my sage from, but I'll link it below. It's I hardly use sage, and I'm starting to slowly use it again for just myself, but for a while I was only using it with my native client at the end of our session, and I just felt
Mhm.
like, should I even be as a white, should I even be using this
Mhm.
just for me? I almost feel like my native client is like giving me the blessing. I used to use it all the time and from
Yeah.
used to buy it from Amazon, like, years
Yeah,
ago because I
yeah,
had no idea that it was, like,
right.
cultural appropriation in a sense, but
Yeah, we're learning. We're
yeah.
learning more. And I think kind of another thread to pull on there is that the the purpose of burning white sage is to cleanse the air, but every culture has its own herb that serves that purpose. So like do a little bit of research into your genealogy and look at like what the native people of your tradition or of your culture used, right? Like rosemary was used and cedar was used in the Jewish traditions. And so I like to burn rosemary and cedar, and I have white sage that I grew, so I'll burn that. But like, what a cool way to connect with your own lineage instead of pulling off of someone else's. Like, learn more about your culture and figure out what the traditional people of your culture use to cleanse and purify spirits, and like start talking with the plants, start talking with your ancestors, and like it kind of opens this door of like discovery into your own knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of for my for myself a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people, especially being so disconnected from culture in general, like Americans are just really disconnected from their roots and their
Yeah.
lineage. For
Yeah.
people who don't, I'll just speak for myself. I don't like have a lot of family members who like know information. Like I don't know where do look because like I feel like it's so
Yeah.
general. Like my family coming from like central Italy, like Naples area, um, mainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how do I know?
Like, how do you start that search? I
Yeah,
honestly would just like start a Google rabbit hole, and I would start Googling
I've done this.
like ancestral folk herbalism in Naples, Italy.
Yeah,
And then maybe start searching, or just see what that brings up. Like folk herbalism, ancestral folk herbalism or ancestral herbalism, and then the name of whatever country your family is from, and like see what you find. And you may find a lot and you may not, but you're going to learn something about the movement of your people. And I mean, that's the thing, is that like every nationality has had people who have been connected with the land. As far, as long as you can trace it back far enough, you will find there are people that lived in connection with the land all across the earth. They've been displaced and they've moved, and especially with like the Jewish people, it's kind of difficult to track because they've been all over. But there are these truths that follow their movement that you will be able to find about oh, like personally I can speak to like Jewish people were like on the go a lot, and they were fleeing persecution a lot, and so like they brought like cloves of garlic in their pocket and little plants of rosemary with them. And so like there are these little things, and then like once you start learning about that, you can start pulling on these threads. And I mean, I'm sure there's some books about folk Italian herbalism out there.
yeah. I was just remembering as you were talking that
Yeah.
one time I was automatic like journaling, and walnuts. That's what came through. It
Mm,
was like, so it was really strange. It was, and I had no awareness of any of this. And so then I went down a deep rabbit hole because it's like almost like I wanted to validate what was coming through
yeah.
and
Yep.
how it was connected. But it was like, this might sound like a little crazy, but it was like Princess Diana, not the Princess Diana, Goddess Diana.
Mm,
And because what came through was a temple of Diana,
mm.
and then walnuts, and then Benevento, which like, so I'm like, what is happening here? And so I did some research, and then there was like the Benevento witches, which were like this big thing in Italy, and they would worship Goddess Diana around a walnut tree. And
Oh my
so
gosh, I have
like,
chills.
yeah. And so I just realized I never thought I need to like do something with the walnuts, or maybe, yeah. What do you think about walnuts? Is there anything interesting about them?
I don't know, but I would look into the walnut tree. Like, I wonder if
Yeah.
the leaves of the tree, you could burn the leaves or something like that. Like, another thing that I've learned
Hmm.
through this type of herbalism is that, like, every part of the plant has use. So, like, yeah, the walnut is edible, but I wonder if, like, the plant itself, the leaves itself, or the bark have other spiritual or physical properties. Yeah, I personally don't know, but it's definitely worth, like, another rabbit hole, I think.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love this stuff. This is so cool. Okay. I'm gonna look into that.
Cool.
Do you have any thoughts on, and I know maybe this isn't a great question to ask like nearing the end, but do you have any thoughts on why we became so disconnected from all of this? Do you feel like it starts at like the agricultural revolution, or
Mm,
because that's what a lot of people say is
yeah,
when we started to like own land and
yeah. Yeah,
controlling women's body to control like inheritance and
yeah, when we began to feel like we could control the cycles of the earth. And I mean, it makes so much sense what you say about the agricultural revolution, but in my mind, like, what what I think about is when we like shifted from worshiping the goddess into worshiping like male gods. And I think like that power shift from worshiping the goddess as like the earth goddess, as like the creator of all,
mm,
into this like separate god that we require a translator for, or someone to tell us whether we are worthy or not of. I don't want to get too like religious or political, but I guess I'll
I
just
mean
stick
you you
to
you can you absolutely can. It's up to
I'll
you.
just stick to saying that the disconnect from believing in the goddess has disconnected like belief in women, belief in our bodies, and the knowing that we are of the earth. And I think a lot of that comes from the rise of Christianity and
Patriarchy.
patriarchy and like imperialism. So feeling like
Mhm.
we have power over others, like all of this, like these power dynamics, those are all masculine energies. Like I don't, you know,
And not like a
so
real masculine, like not healthy masculine, right?
toxic,
It's like the
like
shadow masculine.
small, yeah, 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 the shadow masculine, exactly. And I think, someone prove me wrong, please, but if the world was ran by women, I don't think we would be in wars the way we're in. I don't think we would be destroying the earth the way that we are.
Mhm.
I just think that there's like more of this inherent, because our bodies, women's bodies, are so impacted by the moon and our cycles mimic the moon, and we're so like we are, I believe, more connected to the earth. I don't think that a planet run by women would be destroying the mother the way that we are.
Yeah, she would never choose to destroy her own body.
No. So it's, yeah, yeah, I think it's probably all happened around the same time, right? Like this shift towards male dominated society.
Have you read the book The Great Cosmic Mother? You'd really like it.
I need to write that down.
Yeah, let me make sure. Hold on. That's probably going to sound really loud, but The Great Cosmic Mother. Yeah, rediscovering the religion of the earth. It's
Mm,
such a good read, and it's so good. Are you familiar with Sophie Strand?
yep, 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 yep.
Okay,
I was
yeah,
just like looking at my bookshelf because I have a bunch of her books behind me, and so some of her work has just been so impactful
yeah,
in supporting this like knowing of like, oh yeah, that's where the
totally.
disconnect comes from. Yeah.
Mhm.
My
Yeah,
husband read The Flowering Wand by her. I never
yeah,
read it, but have you read it?
yeah. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
I
a lot of
recommend.
it kind of talks about like the sky gods, the masculine gods versus like the
Mhm.
earth gods or the more female gods. And
Yeah, that's exactly when you were talking. I was like, oh, I need to ask her if she's read Sophie
yeah,
Strand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Love her. Also, like, kind of tangent, but I loved the Madonna's Secret. Have you read that? It's a
No.
novel. It's like her rendition of Jesus's story from Mary Magdalene's point of view. It's so good. Highly recommend. Highly recommend.
It's called The Madonna Secret.
Yeah, or like
Okay, I'm writing it down.
a Madonna's Secret. But yeah,
Mhm.
Sophie Strand. I loved it so much. So
It's by Sophie
yeah,
Strand. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah,
I'll have to read that. She talks
yeah.
and there's nobody like with her brain, like the way that she
No.
sees things and the way that she just connects everything to
Oh my gosh.
nature is like it's just it like my mind it just like she takes me somewhere that I didn't even like I would have
Oh,
never
totally.
thought like it's just crazy.
Totally.
It's
And
brilliant.
her whole family, like they're all channeling these spirit, like I believe that
Yeah,
they're
she
all channeling these old spirits speaking through them as like they're kind of like the mouthpieces for these
yeah,
old
yeah.
spirits. And I can't remember the name of this book that her mom and her dad wrote, but it's about the rosary. Clark Strand and Perdita Finn. They wrote a book about kind of like rediscovering the rosary as reverential way to like pray to the goddess, pray to the earth mother. And they have a statue of Mary that they like Mary as the earth goddess. Like they have a statue right in front of their home in Woodstock, which is like upstate New York.
Mhm.
I know you lived in Westchester, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, I
like
grew up
it's
there.
not that far from there, and they've created this kind of like at least national, maybe global group of people that go through these prayers of praying of like reclaiming the rosary as a way to connect to the goddess. Sorry, I
I
maybe you
love
can
that.
look up the name of the book and like link it because I can't think of the name, but I highly recommend that one too. It's called The Way of the Rose. The Way of the Rose.
I've been seeing that
Yeah.
like everywhere recommended.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Highly
I
recommend. It's truly
okay.
life-changing. Like I'm a Jewish
Really?
person praying the rosary. Like it's been life-changing. So, yes, highly recommend.
Wow. Yeah, actually that's a really good recommendation too to kind of reclaim
Yeah,
the relationship that people have with the rosaries because I just remember growing up in a Catholic family like just almost feeling like this resistance, like at
totally.
that like just the way that I don't know, the energy that was
Yeah,
the way that it was my family had a relationship with it. It was like strange kind of. Like it just felt
yeah,
like I don't know, like off.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like a duty or responsibility that you have to do instead of something that you feel and discover
Is
for
it?
yourself.
Yeah.
At least I can speak to some of my husband's experiences. He grew up Catholic too, and like he's also come back to praying the rosary in his own way through this book. And yeah, the redis like I think it helps a lot with like the Catholic wound of like growing up Catholic, then moving away from the religion and then being like, oh, I can like reclaim this relationship to this ancient practice of praying the rosary, which came before Christianity, and like reclaim it for myself as a way to connect to the divine or spirit or whatever name you want to call it, but something bigger than ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like you've
of
given me
course.
a lot to look into. So I really appreciate that. Where can people find you if they're interested in looking into your
Yeah,
offerings?
yeah, root and rise together. I
I'll link it
have
below.
a whole bunch of offerings around herbalism, some of my group work. I do women's circles and group, like herbal groups, and then I do one-on-one intuitive herbal readings for folks, some tarot readings, and I teach yoga. All that's online. So most, if not all, of my offerings can be virtual. So wherever you are, you can tune in if you want to. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zoe. It was really nice connecting with you. I
Yeah,
just
likewise.
feel like your presence is so grounding and warm and soft, but very wise.
Thank you. Thanks for creating this space and just like opening the dialogue. I need more of this. I think we all need more of this in our lives.
Yeah.
So thanks for having the platform.
Yeah. Thank you.